really, I mean, you should probably be hosting this. You're much more qualified than I am, but I'm just going to do it. And you can tell me how bad I'm doing. Hey,
you're more daring than me.
You think so? Is it the outfit? Here, listen, I'll say this about Elvis. If I was independently wealthy, I would dress in jumpsuits a lot more. It's just a thing you have to do once you're rich. You can't do it. You don't see poor people in jumpsuits. Jumpsuits? Hey, anyway, welcome, America, to Unscripted. It's the show where we try to educate and entertain by covering the news and stuff like that. And then we interview the very best and brightest that LinkedIn has to offer. Today's guest, oh my God, she's an author. You're a speaker. You're a marketing expert. And listen, anyone can say they're a marketing expert, but you have 40-something awards and you worked on avocados from Mexico, which my kids sing the jingle to all the time. So welcome to the show. Glad to have you. Thanks for being here.
Hi, how are you? Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Oh, I'm glad you said that. Yeah, listen, we're festive. I always do my hair like this, but I don't normally dress like Elvis. All right, so here's the thing. Normally, before we get to the news, every day in this country is something like it's National Cupcake Day or National Roasted Nuts Day, but today's an actual day. As you mentioned, it's Halloween. So I just wanted to do something Halloween-y off the bat. I think I'm fair in judging the United States. You're from Venezuela, right?
From Venezuela.
How do you guys do Halloween? Is it a big deal? Is it a deal? I'm ignorant about this. Do you guys go trick-or-treating? Is it anything?
No, that's not very American custom.
Okay, it's an American custom. I'm glad that you said that, because I think I'm fair when I criticize the United States. I think we do some things very well. I think we do some things horribly. One of the things we do, and I think everybody would agree, we're pretty innovative. We've come up, we're inventors, I would say. Here's the thing about Halloween. It used to be a very child-centric holiday. I think it still is. Then adults started having parties. So then girls would do sexy versions of things. And in the beginning, they would sexify a nurse or an angel or a devil, and then a construction worker. But we've taken it to levels unforeseen. So I just wanted to bring this up. These are sexy versions of things that no one should ever sexify, but we did because we're innovators. This top row, top left, that's a sexy Bambi. Gumby, Mrs. Potato Head, Mr. Peanut, and the Tasmanian Devil. This is widely innovative, don't you think? I mean, you're a marketer. We're running out of things to sexify, but we've managed somehow.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that will fall into the category of innovation, but everybody, they do them. So that's good.
It's envelope pushing. In the bottom row, I included food. So we got sexy corn on the cob, sexy French fries, sexy carrot, sexy fortune cookie, and what I'm going to be wearing later, which is sexy popcorn. So I guess my point is there's always room for innovation, even in the sexy corn outfit demographic. So let's cover the news real quick before we get to you. Some of these stories, I think there's a thread, and we'll see if you agree. So this is from the Wall Street Journal. It's great news. It's slightly horrifying. It's big tech is paving the way for a nuclear breakthrough. Small modular reactors could eventually make the power source cheaper, safer, and faster. Here's the thing. We've needed alternative energy sources forever, but we've been beholden to the dirty kind because they were just established. They made more sense. But now with AI processing power needed, companies like Google and Amazon are going to be building tiny nuclear reactors to power their companies, which I think will eventually mean that in our houses, because here's the thing, bottom right-hand corner, that's the original computer. That's the first computer ever built. Look how big it is. Now, look at what we have in our pockets. Unbelievable processing power in our pockets. It goes to figure that eventually we'll all have, mini nuclear reactors in our houses. They're safe. They're clean. If you look at the upper left-hand corner, these are the emissions. Look at nuclear's number one. It almost no emissions compared to coal and natural gas. And on the right, this is how much power they generate per acre as opposed to other sources. So we need it. AI has sort of made it a thing that it has to be created. But how do you feel about this?
I think that with progress and innovation, there's always going to be risk. I mean, it is what it is, and it has been throughout the history of the world. That's nothing new. It's just, it changes because there's new innovations and technology is advanced, but it depending on if it's in good hands or bad hands. And it's nothing new. It always happened. I'm an eternal optimistic. I like to focus on the good things instead of the bad things. There's always going to be bad. I just turn my focus to the goodness of what it brings.
I think it is a good idea. Here's the thing. I think nuclear power is safe, but the disasters are on such a major scale that they're horrifying. But Chernobyl, there was a lot of things that could have been prevented there. The ones in Japan, that was an act of God. They got hit by a tsunami, I think. So, but it's scary. It's like shark attacks. Sharks kill 70 people a year. We kill 100 million sharks. But you hear a shark attack, you don't want to go in the water. You're not going to get struck by lightning. It's that sort of thing.
Right.
Nuclear power is safe. It is clean. The problem, it's been expensive and big. And I love that there's an incentive now for companies like Google and Amazon to explore cheaper, faster, better power. So, okay. So this story gave me hope for the future, because maybe we won't be destroying the planet by trying to extract every last bit of energy from it. This next story makes me think it doesn't matter because we're all going to die. So this is from the Wall Street Journal too. American drone startup notches rare victory in Ukraine. Okay, this is absolutely horrifying. What's happening now is that we're producing a lot of drones and sending them over to Ukraine in the war effort. The problem is that both Russia and Ukraine are using drone jammers. So they send out it fucks with the GPS system, so the drones don't know where to go and they're falling out of the sky. The way they're fixing this is they're making drones with AI technology, so they don't have to be steered anymore by a human. They will know what their target, like they can think. The Terminator movies sort of predicted this kind of thing, but at no point were they flying and dropping into houses. So here's the other horrifying thing. So one, it's drones. Two, they have artificial intelligence. And three, these are private citizens that the government is buying drones from. So these are just corporations that are making drones, and that the government's spending hundreds of millions of dollars to buy them from the average person. This is horrifying, isn't it?
It's a matter of what perspective. I mean, again, I think that it just was horrifying when guns were invented. Well, it depends who has the gun in their hands. So everything is relative, and it's just depending on the perspective what you look at it. I think that I would prefer to be driven by a AI than putting some boots on the ground and risk the life of some people they're trying to. So again, I just have an optimistic perspective.
Yeah, I agree that the boots on the ground thing is bad. My only concern is, so these new drones, this drone technology is pretty new, right? These things can fly for 12 hours. They can go for 600 miles, and they can carry 25 pounds of explosives. They're only going to get better. So, well, I agree that the boots on the ground thing, yes. But then it's like, well, these things could kill everybody. They're too good. They're too good. What if you send 5,000 of these into a country? You can't shoot them all down. And plus, they have AI. I don't know.
Yeah. We just have to trust the humans in charge, which not always is the case that we can. But I choose to trust the humans in charge.
I like your optimistic view. I mean, listen, we have to. Otherwise, we're all just going to sit around and cry, I guess, in our Elvis costumes. All right, last news story. This is the thing about with the election. All the news is covered. So it's we've got a lot of Starbucks, a lot of McDonald's. We've run out of stories that aren't election based, but Starbucks for 3 consecutive quarters has been losing money. The coffee giant has decided to bring back, they think the problem is the condiment bar, which is in the upper right-hand corner. I didn't even realize that they had taken this away. So I guess post-COVID, they stopped with the condiment bar. Like you couldn't put your own cream and sugar in. You have to ask the barista to do it. Evidently, the new ownership over at Starbucks, or the new bosses, think that returning the condiment bar and getting drinks ready in under 4 minutes is going to bring people back. Do you go to Starbucks?
Not very often, no.
I don't either, but I will say I've always had a weird problem with Starbucks that I couldn't really put my finger on it. I like the coffee, but I think I figured it out. I know you didn't grow up here, but growing up here, it was specifically in the 80s, Red Lobster in the Olive Garden seemed like the height of sophistication. But when you grow up, you realize they're just shitty chain restaurants, but they do a very good marketing. Like this is where you got to go. But there's 5 billion of them. That's what Starbucks is. It's fake pretension, because there's 17,000 Starbucks in the United States. It's not really fancy, but they present very well. It seems fancy. And then they have drinks like, the iced apple crisp shaken espresso with oat milk. That sounds fancy, but it's just a chain restaurant,
Yeah. Well, you want to hear something funny? You say, I didn't grow up here, but I grew up in the 70s, and my breakfast, when I was in preschool, in elementary school, my breakfast was coffee. I don't know why. I mean, wow. I still couldn't understand, but it was café con leche. which is, coffee with milk. And that
Yeah.
was my breakfast throughout. And so I appreciate like a good café con leche. I don't know, to my taste, it's too strong.
I was gonna say that, yeah, if you've grown up in Venezuela and then you come over here and you're getting a salted pecan cream cold foam, it can't be good. A mass-produced apple crisp macchiato cannot possibly it can't compete, right?
Right? Totally not. Mm-mm.
Here's the other thing that bothers me about Starbucks, and then we can move on to you. But the whole thing is that the new chief executive officer wants drinks made under 4 minutes. Okay, I get it. I want my coffee under 4 minutes too. But look how complicated these drinks are. If you have somebody walk up and order 4 of any of these things, it's going to take you. Like, I used to be a bartender, and when people order these goddamn apple teas and stuff, all right, here we go. It takes 15 minutes. You want your drink quickly, but you want an apple crisp macchiato with oat milk. Well, you can't have both, you know?
You know what is funny? I feel like the world, it always goes in circle, which means that at some point that was cool, but we're entering to an age of simplification. Right. So everything got so complicated. And same with technologies that work and branding, we go back to simplicity. And so this is a question and a reflection. Did Starbucks lag behind that trend that we are supposed to be simplifying? I don't know. I don't have the answer. It's just a reflection.
Well, something must have gone wrong because I don't think they changed, okay, they want to blame the condiment bar. I don't think that was the reason people stopped going. It was probably larger than that. And it could have been the simplicity thing. It's another like trope of people getting exhausted by the person in front of them ordering a half whip, double cream, whatever the fuck, and somebody just wants coffee. But if you just want coffee, Starbucks isn't the place that you're supposed to go. So it's a little bit of that weird thing too. Like, you're just in the wrong place. If you want just coffee, just shitty coffee, go to Dunkin' Donuts. It's much faster.
You know what I think, and I don't have any facts or anything, it's just my own thinking. When Starbucks became very popular, it was when they offered that experience that you could go there and work. Actually, there's memes about everybody's just with their computers working. But after the pandemic, everybody have that everywhere. Everybody got used to every place is a good place to work, your house, your home office. And again, I think that, and I don't know this for sure, but I would love to ask them, did they miss that transition happening, and why they didn't like reevaluate what was their value proposition at that point, and how they could like tweak or update their value proposition as the world move along from that coolness of just going to a coffee shop as an office place.
That's a good point. Were you ever one of those people that could work at a coffee shop? I could never do it in a million years.
No,
I think it's so weird.
Too much noise. You're gonna have a cold. I just I like solitude. So,
I could never work there. And then again, I think it's kind of presumptuous to just show up to a restaurant, sit at a table, sit there for 6 hours. Like, you're costing the place money because you're ordering 2 coffees in 6 hours. Other people need that table, and you're sitting there writing the great American novel. Like, go home, go to an office. But what are you doing?
Right.
I've found that so strange.
The chairs are uncomfortable to spend more than, 20 minutes, the noise and the people walking behind. How you can even concentrate in doing any kind of work.
I think it was more that it was a cool thing to do and they wanted to be seen working because I'm guarantee this, they're on a Mac. They have to have all the cool nerd shit I'm sure they need, because it's more about being seen than under no circumstance when anybody one of the best environment to write is noise constantly, people ordering coffee, spilling stuff, kids crying. That's where you should write. Nobody would say that.
Look at the trends. I mean, look at the trends back then. Oh, they have Wi-Fi. That's so cool. I can go to a place. Well, everybody has Wi-Fi right now. So I think, this very personal opinion, they lag behind and they forgot to kind of keep the finger in the pulse and notice things were changing, maybe.
I think right after this, we should write Chief Executive Officer Brian Niccol and tell him your ideas, because something ain't working. They're in the news every day for losing money. All right. Normally, with the 3 questions, we do bands, movies, and books. But in this case, I think because you're a marketing expert, going with the brands thing is much more interesting. So you answered your 3 favorite brands, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Interesting answers, because, all right, can I give since I'm in the marketing space too? I think your choices are interesting because we went through a period for a long time in marketing where people pretended that consumers cared about brand purpose which is, I think, so stupid. Nobody gives a shit. I don't really like, they might say they give a shit, but if they did, that company that gives away a free pair of shoes to poor people every time you buy would crush Nike, who we know uses child labor, but we don't care because Nike is cool. And that's fine. But it's not fine to pretend that's not what's going on. You know, the whole thing was like, oh, this new generation, they care about brand purpose. No, they don't. No, they don't. If it solves your problem or makes you look cool or if it's affordable, that's what you care about. And I know this because anybody, go in the refrigerator right now, look at everything in there. Tell me one company's brand purpose. You can't.
Right.
Anyway, Tesla, not exactly evil, but it's associated with Elon Musk now, who is a polarized figure. But again, he didn't start Tesla. He was an investor, and now he's the face of it, and now he's the CEO. So what do you like about Tesla?
I love your show, by the way. I'm having so much fun for a Friday Halloween. Thanks for inviting me.
No problem.
Okay, look, I think that people, whatever marketers say or whatever anyone say, I think that people like brands for the same way they like other people. Brands are not unidimensional. Brands are multidimensionals. So the way I think about this is I have my set of values. Me personally, I know them very, very well because I have done a lot of internal research and introspection. So I know my values. And brands have even a long or short set of values. So how my own values align with the values of that brand, that's what makes me look at one brand. And so with some of their values, I may disagree. But if those values that I disagree with are not top of my values, my set of values, it doesn't matter that much. So why I like Tesla and Elon Musk, well, let's talk about Elon Musk. I have my love-hate relationship with Elon Musk. I may or may not like him as a person and some of his beliefs, and especially his leadership style and all other lot of stuff. But I do like his mind. I think his mind, the way he think about technology and future are absolutely fascinating. Doesn't matter who he is as a person. So what I like about Tesla is the rebelliousness of belief and in an unwavering way that the future is what we make of it, and rebel against the notions that things are supposed to be one way and some things are impossible. So I think that Tesla demonstrated in two different industries, right?
Yeah.
And that nothing is impossible. When you set your mind on solving a problem, it doesn't matter how big it is, and you have the determination and the resilience. Nobody, you can hate Elon Musk, and you cannot deny that he have proof that the impossible is possible.
Yeah, it's one of those things that don't meet your heroes. Like, we hold certain things to standards that we would never hold other things to. I'm a big, like, I love memoirs. Every time I read a memoir about a musician, I end up hating them because they're pieces of shit. But that's what artists are. They're weirdos. They're not good with people. They're bad with interpersonal relationships. They do dumb stuff, but you have to separate the art from the artist. And I think you have to do that when it comes to bold, innovative people like Elon Musk's. I don't like him personally. I hate his politics. I think he's a big dork. Like, he's a cosplayer, but you know, he's bold, he's innovative, he's brave enough to be the face of innovation. You know, there's very few people. It's you know, Bill Gates almost by accident. He's a big dork too. Warren Buffett, Elon Musk. There's not a lot of these guys, and it takes balls. You know,
and that's what I talk a lot in. I know we're going to talk about it later, but. I believe in approaching these kind of, I will say, opportunities to judge whether brands or people and use our critical thinking. So using the critical thinking is like removing the noise and really focusing on what do I admire about this brand. Forget about the owner of the brand, the builder of the brand. What do I admire? And just, you know, looking at it from the objective perspective without my personal opinions on the person that runs it.
I watched, you know, he had that big thing recently about the robot taxis and all this other shit. And like, if you went on, the news is so polarized. So people that are anti Elon Musk hated everything about it. But then if you just watch the objective video that just reported on the news, and he was like, robot taxis will mean that old people who can't drive themselves can get to and from appointments without having to bother somebody. Like that's there are good ideas baked into the ideas. At some point, I know they crash now, and I know it's camera and GPS driven. I'm sure a lot of Model Ts crashed into, shit too, but we kept going with car technology, and that's where we are. So the bold, innovative ideas that he has are objectively good. Now, I know you hate him, so you want to shit on him, but not you, I'm saying the zeitgeist. You have to look beyond that, because somebody has to go, well, how are old people going to get to fucking doctor's offices? Well, we have robot taxi technology. Let's implement that. And that's just one of many uses.
What about disabled young people? I mean, anyway, like I say, like to quote Taylor Swift, haters are going to hate, but in every side. But there's always the good and the bad.
Right.
As the humanity should focus more on the good.
No one's perfect except for us, obviously, but you got to take, you got to take the good with the bad. I'm not, I'm sure Nikola Tesla had his own problems, and Benjamin Franklin, these fucking guys, we always want perfection from the people that do things. It's very conceptually bizarre. All right, let's move on to the next one. Nike. This is another one. Their practices sometimes have been a little suspect, but groundbreaking in terms of were there any cool athletic shoes before Nike? I'm not sure there were.
Yeah, so here you will think, what do I admire? It could be divided. I could evaluate, do I admire the company or the product or the brand? So since the question was, what are your favorite brands? I'm not talking about the company or the product. As a brand, I think Nike resonates very strongly with me. I think that have been extremely consistent throughout the years with their ethos. Just do it. And I think that it resonates with me because I also have a very strong bias for action. When I see an opportunity, I have an idea, I want to do something, I just go and do it. I really hate going around and overthinking and evaluating what could go wrong. Things don't just work. You make them work. So I believe that once you decide to do something and you commit to it and you set your mind to it, you will make it work, period. So I love their determination, and I also love the way they are, whatever is their cause. I'm not getting into the specific causes, but whatever is their cause, they are so unapologetic about supporting that cause, which it translates to me that they are extremely and unwaveringly loyal to their own values and principles, regardless of how they are attacked, because they have been attacked or disliked. So they are not afraid to be disliked. And again, if Nike was a human, it will be a badass human that can take other people. I mean, it has the courage to be disliked in order to follow their own ideals, values, and beliefs. So that's admirable.
Did you watch the documentary? Oh no, it was not a documentary. It was the movie on Netflix about them, the story behind them signing Michael Jordan and producing the first Air Jordan. Oh, it's so good. Talking about wildly innovative. Jordan wasn't the obvious choice to represent the shoe company. He just, he was I believe he was the third pick in the draft that year, and they had to battle other. I mean, it's a fascinating story because they're going to put him in Chuck Taylor's, which at the time every NBA player wore. When you signed a deal, you signed fucking with that. They were like, no, there's another shoe we're going to sign. You're going to represent us. And obviously it's the most successful shoe of all time. So again, ballsy, innovative. They gave him a ton of money when he wasn't Michael Jordan, and it worked out really well. Did you know that Just Do It was inspired by the last words of convicted murderer Gary Gilmore, who, when he was about to be executed, said, "Let's do it." So yeah, it's twisted a little, and then you have one of the most iconic phrases of all time.
I mean, I'm sure that a lot of people have done that. I mean, have said that phrase.
Right. I think one of the guys is happy to hear it. Phil Knight. Okay, this next one is also sort of on this pain of existence. Ben and Jerry's. So Ben and Jerry's is again, it's one of these like weird dichotomies because on their surface, the first brand to really come out in support of gay marriage, very Vermont. The two dudes, very hippie-esque. Oh yeah, that's the name of the Air. Air is the name of the movie. You should go watch it. But Ben & Jerry's sold out to Unilever, I think in like 2010, in the 2000 or something like that. And Unilever is one of these companies that's accused of greenwashing and polluting. And, they're one of the most, they use single-use plastics that can't be recycled. So it's just one of these weird things where Ben & Jerry's as a brand comes across as very green and clean and progressive, but they're in bed with a company that does a lot of things that are anti their general ethos. But again, I still eat it. Cherry Garcia might be the best ice cream of all time. I love the dichotomy, I guess is my point.
Yeah, same type of analysis. One thing is the company, different thing is what they support. But if you ask me about the brand, I admire that brand, and I'll tell you why. Which is funny because I don't even eat ice cream.
What?
I haven't even. I think I have maybe tried like one or a couple of times, but it's still I got the message. Their messages and. Even if it goes back to the values, right? To the set of values. I know very well my values. My top two are freedom and fairness. Yeah. And any person or brand that have that at the top of their values will naturally align with me. Why do I'm not an activist of gay marriage or clean environment. I'm not. I mean, I'm never going to see, you're never going to see a piece of content of me defending. But I support it. I mean, because of my value of freedom and fairness, I think that the fairness part is just let everybody be what they want to be. That's none of my business, and let everyone make freely the selections that they want to make for their life. Doesn't matter what side of the spectrum you are. So the fact that Ben & Jerry's are so very similar to Nike. So loyal to their own values and their causes that they are support, so bold, so unapologetic, so fearless, basically, because when you take a stand like the stands they take that are so strong and so heavily leaning to one side, they are exposed to like massive attacks, and they still stay where they believe that is aligned with their values. So I think that's admirable. And if they were on the other side, I will still admire them, because it's not the causes that they, that I admire, is their personality, determination, their loyalty to their own values, their braveness. Yeah. That's remarkable. Doesn't matter what side you are as a brand.
Yeah, I admire passion for a cause, no matter what the cause is, or the thing. Trees like I watched one about crossword puzzles. I don't give a shit about crossword puzzles, but the love that these guys have for crossword puzzles permeates. You're like, oh my god, that's goddamn amazing. I will say this about Ben & Jerry's too. Do you know who Rory Sutherland is? He's he works at Ogilvy and Mather. He's got a bunch of videos and books and stuff. He talks in marketing about this idea of superfluous bullshit, meaning that you need to add on something to your brand that might not make any sense, but it's talk aboutable. Like he brings up all the time, I guess there's a train station in London that has the world's longest champagne bar. That is meaningless. It doesn't matter. Length of a champagne bar has nothing to do with champagne. Champagne has nothing to do with the train station, but it's talk aboutable. People go there, and all of a sudden somewhere you would sit around and wait for a train becomes a destination, interesting, a place where you spend money and tell other people you got to go to. Ben & Jerry's doesn't talk about, as far as I know, necessarily the quality of the ingredients or how special the flavors are. They've added this layer of superfluous bullshit, which is they're very left-leaning, very hippie. It gets people talking, love or hate them. They're in the news, and that's brilliant because ice cream and social causes don't go together necessarily. But if you put them together, you get Ben & Jerry's, and how many more ice cream places are more successful than them?
Totally. And what I said before is from the marketing perspective, when you want to build a brand, when I go to the grocery store, they are so present and so strong and so bold on the marketing side that when I go to the grocery store, I always see them. Yeah. If I ever want to buy one, I probably will pick up Ben & Jerry just because it's so familiar to me, because I see them, like they stand out in the shell of, different brands that are like, no pun intended, vanilla.
Nice.
So they definitely, said a statement that made them pop up as a brand.
And the dumb names, so I love the dumb names. Cherry Garcia is named after Jerry Garcia. Chunky Monkey is unbelievable. I have a thing for fake banana flavor. So it's like it's banana ice cream, walnuts, and dark chocolate. It's delightful. Oh, Ben & Jerry's. I'm gonna go eat your portion since you never touch it. I don't know why. Okay, let's move on to the books. I don't know if you know this, but you wrote a book, and it's this one.
Yay.
Do you want to talk? All right, I haven't read it. I'm sorry, but I we just met yesterday. So do you want to cover a little bit about Think?
Yeah, so that's the coffee table version. This is the paperback version. So it's not really a book, it's a platform. So the first part of that platform was that book that you have there, which is, I have it back in my in my bookshelf. Is a big book. It has 100 illustrations made with AI, spectaculars. It has it's just to put on top of the table. So that was the launch of that platform, and I'll tell you what it's about. Then the second step was to record an audible. So I spent myself with all my accent, but a really good producer that helped me to pronounce correctly every single word of the 16 hours that we spent in the studio recording the book. Wow. And then I launched the paperback version, and the last one is the last piece, the latest piece. Is actually not one more. And then I train an AI model that speaks on my voice about the book. And then the last one was a podcast in Spanish that translates the philosophy and thinking of the book into a podcast format. So what it is it's really, I call it the manifesto for creative and critical thinkers. And it is a tool for anyone who feels that passion for, or the need or the desire for thinking creatively and boldly, just to open the book in any page, read, and take a piece of content that you can keep with you all day, making it yours, reflecting on that, and just making whatever you want out of that. For example, one of the chapters is creating resilience. Another chapter explains how creative thoughts are formed in our brain, so you understand that process. It has it's a philosophical approach on anything that is around creativity and critical thinking. And it's a tool to empower and invite anyone to just, maybe do less and think more, or think more about the things that you're doing. So inspiration, empowerment, information, and if you don't read it in a linear way, which because I don't even have the span of attention to read a whole book from end to end anymore. So I like to give me something that motivates me and that makes me think about that and reflect. And that's the book that I wrote.
You said in I watched a few of your interviews on YouTube, you said a bunch of this is you were thinking about thinking, and that's sort of what Think came from. Do you think people think about thinking? I mean, I think about thinking. I'm a big Kurt Vonnegut fan, and one of his quotes that's always like on his top 10 quotes is the benefit of a liberal arts education is that they teach you how to think and how to think about thinking. And I think that's true. And I don't know that, I mean, I don't want to sound like above anybody. I just don't know. Do people think about thinking, you think?
I don't think that people think about thinking. And one of the things that I wrote about is, and there's research about it, actually, I named the research, that the education system train us not to think, but to learn specific answers to a question. How many times when you were growing up and you went to school, how many times like, hey, this is a question, you can think about it and just put whatever you think? No. Yeah. There was always the specific answer for a specific question. And if you didn't answer that, then the answer is wrong. Right. So we were not trained to think. And if you go to, just corporate America, how many times, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but how many times somebody is, we have to do something about this. Yeah. Think about it. How do you want to do it? And it's just all set of rules and processes. I mean, nobody tells you can do this in any way you want. How many companies tells you that? Oh, no, there's a process. And on the other hand, how many times do you hear, oh, that's not how we do it around here. You have to follow, this person. Right. So people don't think.
I don't know. Okay, so obviously the Venezuelan school system is probably different than the Americans, but I heard once somebody compare the American school system to, it's like bulimia. So we gorge on information, we purge it all over the test, and nothing is retained, and then we move on again. And because we're just trying to get the right answer, I don't think we think critically. I bring this up a lot. The American Revolution, right? Our history, fascinating. It's very, very interesting. We fought an empire. We had ideals like the founding fathers, absolutely wild. They teach it to us, or they taught it to me in 4th grade. I didn't give a shit. I have no context. There's nothing to, I'm just trying to remember what you're telling me so I can put it on a test and move on. But there was never, the critical aspect thinking isn't baked into the education system. And I think then we become adults who don't think about thinking, and we just want to get things right. And then in marketing, it's particularly heartbreaking because you think marketing is going to be creative and bold and innovative, but creative, bold, and innovative might get you fired. What doesn't get you fired is playing it safe, because you go, well, the numbers say we should do this. I'm just saying I'm just doing what the numbers do, what everybody else does. And then you're in the middle, and we're pack animals. For 300,000 years, if you're in the middle of the pack, you don't get eaten. Now, what you want to be is away from the pack. You want to be Elon Musk, but in our lizard brains, I think we just want to stay boring and stay in the middle, and that's safety to us. That was 100%, a lot to cover.
100%. But if you compare, I think that it also, the times have evolved. Maybe in the past, the education system was appropriate 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Yeah. Think about this. Let's say you go to school to study marketing 40 years ago. You have to learn very well how to do TV, radio, print. Right. And you're a marketing genius. Yeah. Bring that to like today. There's 14,000 tools and platforms in the marketing technology ecosystem. Can you learn them all? No, impossible. So what you need to do is learn how to think about it. And if you learn how to think about things, especially in the marketing space, it doesn't matter how many more platforms. You can have 1 million platforms and tools and technology can evolve as much as you want. But if you learn how to think about it, if you know how to think about it, you're never going to be obsolete. And that's the big difference.
Yeah. I think we're in a weird space where the technology is so much more interesting than the applications of the technology, because we can automate all this shit and then all we do is write boring emails. We've not interjected creativity into the technology that we have. And I think that's partly because no one thinks about thinking. So they're not creative. They just do it the dumbest, most obvious way. And here we are, a wash in a sea of boring vanilla bullshit.
100%. Or they do what others are doing. Oh, that's so cool. It's so innovative. Let's do it. And what some people don't realize is that the most disruptive and creative are those who took the risk of doing what hasn't been proved. Yeah. And what hasn't been proved has some risk involved. So you don't have the guts to go, take the risk. You're always going to be a me too.
Yeah. It's sort of like if you can test it, it's a bad idea because it's been done before. You need to go out there and this is why I hate focus groups, because focus groups will always rail against things that are interesting. I don't know, do you know the story of the Cadbury gorilla, the drumming gorilla? Cadbury got in trouble. They had some sort of like salmonella or some shit. They got hit. Chocolate sales were down. They needed something. They did this thing. They just put a dude in a gorilla suit, and he drummed to In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins. They never showed Cadbury.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. They never showed. So under normal circumstances, chocolate, you see it pouring. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. Somebody attractive is eating in it. You go, that's what a chocolate commercial is. This had nothing to do with anything. It's just a dude in a gorilla shirt drumming to Phil Collins. And all of a sudden it saved Cadbury. It died in testing. Everybody hated it. They go, what's it about? There's no chocolate. What are they selling? It doesn't matter. It was interesting and unique, and people talked about it and they wanted to watch it. And that's what we've lost that in totality. We've had spurts like Dollar Shave Club crushed it. Poopery did very interesting commercials. But for the most part, we just do dumb, boring shit. I don't know why.
Well, because if Potpourri will have taken that through focus group, probably it will have died. So
Yeah.
that's what it's just the darlings, the ones that takes the risk, the one that stay unwavering, like aligned with their values, their mission that they want to do, regardless. And this applies to you humans too.
Yeah.
If a human if a person, an individual, a marketer, I do what I think that people is going to like, then I'm not being loyal to who I am. I'm loyal to who they want me to be. That's not
Yeah.
authenticity. And today, in this day and age, there's nothing more powerful than authenticity.
Yeah, I just think sometimes, yeah, I can't tell if people like authentic, they're just dumb or they're hiding something. Here's the thing: drunk, get people drunk, they get way more interesting because they let their guard down. And listen, nobody ever talks good about booze. But I'm telling you, get people drunk, they're like, oh, hey, that's the real you. Now I see the real you. You're not pretending anymore, and it's usually delightful. All right, listen, we can talk about your book forever. I'm going to buy it. I just haven't read it yet. I didn't have much time. As fast and as good as Amazon is, they couldn't get it to me between 10 o'clock last night and whatever time it is right now.
Yeah, you told me, and I said, you told me, do you want it? And I said, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, that's it. You because you're Nike. You live in the ethos of Nike. Yeah.
Exactly.
This book sounds very interesting. So there's these rare breed traits the book talks about. I haven't read this, but I'm going to read this too. So rebelliousness, audaciousness. Yeah, you have to be obsessed, hot-blooded, weird, hypnotic, and emotional. Those are good traits.
Yes. Yes. Everything that everybody told you that was wrong with you is actually right. It's what makes you special, unique, and ready, like equipped to win, basically.
Yeah, but you know what the problem is? Let's go back to the education system. And you're right. It was designed when it was designed for a purpose, which at least in the United States was to make factory workers. We needed people to work in factories. We needed people to sit down, shut up, take instructions, know how to read, write, and do math. And then you're going to be a great factory worker. Unfortunately, there's no fucking factories anymore. So we have to do something else, but it's like turning around the Titanic. It's going to take years and people have to like wrap their heads around change. But yes, these traits are the things that help you stand out, and standing out is the thing we need to do today.
100%. And I loved it. I mean, I read it. I had an audiobook. I listened to it when I'm walking, along the canal. I absolutely love it. It resonated so strongly with me, probably more than any, beside mine, probably more than any other book that I have read, because I think that this, I mean, I'm sure there's many, but for me, it was the first time that I listened to a lot of the messages that I personally received throughout my career or my life, even was actually right. And they prove it. Not only they prove at how those were the foundations of their success, which is they have a very successful company. And so just to the pleasure of reading it several times, because every time I read it, I get reminded of these things were actually great things, and it gives you like new confidence to go in being transparent about the things that you thought that were flaws are actually strength.
It's so bizarre too. I think this is a weird analogy, but I think about this a lot. Prince and David Bowie died in the same year. Everybody was so broken up about it, and I totally get it. They're great artists. But if you look at who they are, David Bowie, very eclectic, Ziggy Stardust concept albums, dressed like a weirdo, looked like a weirdo, did weird stuff. Prince, same thing. Guy's 5'4", wears crushed velvet, high heels, eyeliner, and he's going to steal your girlfriend. We love these people, but we act nothing like them. It's so bizarre that we look at these, we idolize these people. Again, even in the business world, Musk and Zuckerberg and Warren Buffett, and they do weird shit and say weird shit. And they're out there. They subject themselves to criticism. We love it or we hate it, but we're like, I don't want anything to do with that. I'm just going to be boring. But we know that boring doesn't really work that well.
You know what is in the middle of authenticity and how you actually show up is fear. And that applies for individuals and brands. So individuals is this fear of not being liked.
Right.
Which, I mean, what is going to happen? And nobody's going to like you anyways, because there's and let me see if it translates, but there's a saying in Spanish that nobody is golden coin or a gold coin, you're not going to be liked by everybody anyways. So, and in companies is that fear of pissing off the investors, of the board, or some consumers, but there's always is fear.
Yeah.
So if we kind of break down that fear and what are we fearing, we realize, and there's plenty of research about it, we realize that a lot of the things that we fear are actually only in our mind.
Oh, absolutely. There's this book that I love. It's called The Psychopath Test. And it goes into, it explains that I think a third of Fortune 500 CEOs fail the psychopath test, meaning that they're psychopaths. So what we think on the surface is, oh, you got to be crazy to run a company. No. One of the hallmarks of psychopaths is that they don't feel fear. That's the thing. Not that they're going to stab you in the middle of the night. They just aren't afraid of anything. And that's a third of them. The other 2/3, I'm sure have figured out how to get over fear in a normal way. But I'm telling you, if you don't feel fear, you can go far in life because you just don't give a shit.
Exactly. Oh, you do? Maybe you do, but you don't. It's not enough to paralyze you and stop you. Of course, everybody wants to be liked, and nobody but want to be disliked. But if you do, then what are you gonna do?
I know. Yeah. It's weird. So I've started to post, I get another series and it's on YouTube, and it's polarizing. So I take a very leftist view of things. So I get a lot of insults. And it's for the first time in my life, strangers. Like a dude yesterday was like, what a stupid haircut. I know it's stupid. I'm desperate for attention. But you will be attacked if you put yourself, even me, I get very few. But if you're out there saying things, you're right. Not everyone's a golden coin. Everyone's going to dog shit.
Now, doesn't matter what side you are. Anything you say is going to be attacked by the other half, even if you're in the middle. I remember I make a very neutral comment somewhere the other day, and I was attacked. And and I remember I saw it first time in the morning. That were like, hey, good morning, and then I say that, and I I feel think about it, or I just oh well, and let it go. So I blocked any notification anymore of that comment and went on with my day.
Yeah, it's still jarring. We live in we're the first generation that can get insulted by strangers who live 5 billion miles away, and it's just weird. It used to be if you could insult me, we had to be in the same room, but not anymore. Now you can say whatever the fuck you want. It's weird.
Exactly.
All right, let's go on to your third. This book it comes up a lot on the show, and I have read this book. Yep. So tell me why you love The Alchemist, if you will.
So the book is, first of all, it's any book of Paulo Coelho. Is a Brazilian author. Any of his books are so profound and so meaningful. And again, it's that type of books that it's a story that is unrelated to you and your context or whatever, but it's those kind of stories that you can take and own, and you can are so flexible, you can interpret it in any ways you want. So this is about finding your personal journey, and know what you're supposed to be, and know what you are programmed, or don't go after what you are programmed to go after, but when you really, really find your own, what is your own journey. So it has a phrase, quote that is my favorite quotes of all time, and I love quotes. That is that when someone really, really, really wants something, the entire universe conspire to make it a reality. And I have lived that so many times in my own life. I'm very passionate. I will say borderline, maybe not borderline, just full obsessive. I have an obsessive personality. So when I want something, and that can be a project, that can be in my professional life, I just go for it, head on, full me. And I have seen that when that's the case, which is most of the time, opportunities just start popping up all over. So I think that it resonates very well. I have it not as a book that I read one time. I have it next to me, that once in a while I pick it up again and read it again. At the end, one more thing. At the end, after the whole journey, the alchemists go through a long journey looking for that he's supposed to find. And at the end of the book, I realized that it has always been within him.
Right. The thing about the universe conspiring in your favor does appear to be true, but I think it's balanced with like your personality in this case. Let's take it. You're out there. You were just doing it. You're getting a lot done. You're obsessed about it. So you have to help the universe too. I don't think let's pretend cosmically that there is some plan. You gotta meet it halfway at least. And I think people with your personality and psychopaths that are the Fortune 500 CEOs, they help their own cause by getting out there and doing things. You can't just sit around. The universe isn't going to knock on your door, I guess is my point. And I think you would agree with me.
Yeah. There's a joke about it, but it's too long. I'm not gonna say. But yeah, you're totally right. It's like you want it so badly that you just go for it. No matter, like, with a relentless focus on until you get it, until you accomplish that you love. And then when you have that kind of focus, it's like the opportunities will maximize in front of your eyes, and you're not going to miss them. I think that's how it works.
It's like going back to the Jordan thing with Nike. Yes, did the universe maybe conspire in his favor? Sure, but he also shot 1,000 free throws a day, and he also, woke up early and went to the gym. So he was, helping his own cause. And then the universe was like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if we get 10 minutes. Let's try to blast through these movies, but very eclectic taste here. Moneyball. Okay, let me just say this. I'm a Red Sox fan. We had hired Billy Beane, and then he reneged on the contract and went back because he didn't want to be away from his daughter. We're on the East Coast. He's on the West Coast. So he was almost my guy. But we hired a dude who believed in his philosophy and ended up winning a bunch of World Series. But why do you love Moneyball?
I watched it like long time ago. I'm not a sport fan, so for sure I didn't love that. Like, it's entertaining, but I didn't win because of the sport. But it's the same philosophy that I have, that I strongly believe that there's always, and this is going to be through history, in the past, in the future, is always going to be like that. There's always a better way to do things. If we're not doing them that way today, is because we don't know yet. And that's how evolution happens. And that's how innovation happens. Somebody discovered that next best way to do things, and take the risk and do it. And that's how we advance. That's how humanity advances. So that's my core belief. So when I see a movie like this, when they defy the preconceived notions and the status quo and took a tool that already exists, because statistics have been there forever, but kind of look at it from a different perspective, realize that there's the possibility that it can be done better, and then took the risk to defy the common sense by the time and just do it, and they break through. And that is what happened every single time in your personal life, in your professional life, in corporate America. That's what happened. Moneyball kind of people is the ones that bring breakthroughs to the rest of the world.
I know you're not a sports fan, and maybe this interests you, maybe it doesn't, but talk about breakthroughs. So this is what happened. It doesn't mention this in Moneyball because the Oakland A's never go on to win a World Series or anything, but his influenced the Red Sox GM. We were always second place to the Yankees forever. The 2003 team came up short. The off season between 03 and 04 was when he interviewed, and we started believing in his philosophy. They signed 4 guys based on base percentage, which is his big thing. You know what we did the next year? We won the World Series for the first time in 86 years. All it took was like essentially Kevin Millar, Bill Miller, and David Ortiz largely, who got on base. And that changed. That was the breakthrough. And I know what you're saying. That's baseball, but that idea exists all over the place. You just have to find that thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm glad you picked this because it makes me feel better about it. And I get to think about the 04 Red Sox, which is, big deal to me. All right. Your second movie. Interesting. What lessons did you learn from Top Gun Maverick? That you can make a sequel 30 years later and it would be just as good?
Going back to the book, because there's a line there, a connecting line, Rare Breeds, one of the personality traits that they highlight as a positive is rebelliousness, which is seen, like, I remember even when I was growing up, it was a bad thing. My parents will tell me, "You're so rebellious." Teenager, I mean, you don't when I think about it. So that turned out to be a really good personality trait. Rebellious people is the ones that defy the status quo, push boundaries, question things. Just because everybody's doing it this way doesn't mean that that's the way to do it. And that's exactly what happened in this movie when Marek, even though that he wasn't mature, he had a lot of experience, he still didn't lose, which typically we lose when we get older, that rebelliousness. And that is actually what end up saving his life and the life of, the people that were with him. So I just think about it, give me chills. It's just showing that rebelliousness aligned with a brilliant mind and a good strategy can take you very, very hard.
I like the way you think. It's an interesting layer on top of what's ostensibly just a great action movie. But you're right. It's a celebration of rebelliousness. This is the thing, too. Like, in corporate America, nobody would ever go, what we should do is hire a rebellious, lazy person. But you probably should, because rebelliousness is good. And a lazy person will figure out a better way to do something because they're fucking lazy. So that's sort of like a trait that nobody... Growing up, they would never say you should be lazy. But lazy people will find the cheat code. And the cheat code is going to save you a lot of time and a lot of money.
I love what you just say. Let's imagine this for a minute. Imagine that somebody goes to an interview in corporate America and they say, give me your best quality personality trait. I'm rebellious. Yeah. Nobody's going to hire that person.
Never.
Right. But then if they never say that in the interview and they hire them, that's the people that is going to help them to break through, do what nobody else has done. So it's just dichotomy, if you think, of perception and reality.
I think it's baked into our nature. It has been for so long. We live in a brand new time and a brand new space, and it's just weird to have to wrap our heads around, And plus this weird thing about, I think everybody pretends that, I don't want to offend anybody. It's not like that. Like, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. You're going to offend people either way. So, but that's why we get boring stuff, because everybody's so safe.
Exactly. As long as you're respectful, you can be respectful, still be rebellious, and have have the good values also, align your actions with your good values.
Right. Oh, speaking of which, look at that nice little segue here. Erin Brockovich. I haven't seen this movie since it came out, so it's been a while. I remember liking it, but this woman, the actual Erin Brockovich, there's a restaurant down the street that does like concerts. She speaks there once a year, so she's still relevant out there talking. So if ever you want to come to Shirley, Massachusetts, and hear Erin Brockovich talk, she's right down the street. Why do you love this movie? I can venture to guess, but go ahead.
That's one of the movies, again, I watched it back then, and I actually was reading something about a month ago, and I said, oh, I feel like I want to watch it again. So I watched it again. That's what I had at top of mind. Basically, is that it shows the power of one individual to make a huge impact. And you don't have to have ton of resources. You don't have to have tons of money. If anyone that watched that movie, they have nothing, none of that. They barely have an office that was falling apart, but the resilience and the determination, how can it change any situation and make an impact that is way beyond themselves? And that's what I love about it. I love that lesson.
I mean, yes, I think so. She was a single mother that had 3 kids, right? And then between grit and stick-to-itiveness, she ended up getting the people in Hinckley, California, $333 million, because that's unbelievable.
She had like the odd jobs, and she ended up in the office of a lawyer. That it was a very, very humble office, but they had in hands a potential like lawsuit, really big class lawsuit, and with like hundreds of people. And she was so determined that she took on her own to visit each of the people, of the like hundreds of people, really getting to know them. And then they fought with like giants, a huge corporation with much like stronger lawyers. And she was so determined and so resilient into finding the truth and finding the ways within the law. She was not even a lawyer. And this is a life story. This is a real life story that they end up winning, hundreds of millions of dollars for all that.
$333 million. You know why she was able to do this? Because she was rebellious, audacious, obsessed, hot-blooded, weird, hypnotic, and emotional.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, all of which her teachers, I'm sure, said, Erin, calm the fuck down. You got to stop doing that shit.
You know what? I bet she was a terrible student
Of course she
in
was.
school and very rebellious and disobedient. But it's just that's the people that can change the world.
It goes back to why when I read memoirs about my favorite musical artists, I end up disliking them because they have these streaks and it's not good for personal relationships. It doesn't necessarily always make you a good person, but you produce greatness from it. It just seems to be this. That's another weird dichotomy. We're almost up on the hour, but do you want to talk about your website? I could have cropped this a little, but this is one of your websites. You do a lot. Do you want to do like a 30-second elevator pitch?
That's funny because when I decided that I wanted to start a company, I mean, this caught me off guard, but when I decided that I wanted to start a company, I say it's because I had an opportunity to do some business and a business on my own. And I say, I don't want to be a freelancer. I'm going to create a company. And then I had somebody was interviewing me this following week after I did that. And I say, I have to come to the interview and say, I have a company. So I'm going to create a company. And then I say, let's just do it.
There you go.
I created that website myself in a few hours before going to the interview. And I have created since then spectacular websites for my clients. But mine, I keep putting it in the back of my list. I need to do my website, right? And I have it.
Listen, it's the cobbler's kids not having shoes thing. It happens all the time. I get it.
I'm working on it right now. Yeah, it's going to be, actually, it's going to be launched the real website in a couple of months after a year and a half that I have already doing. But I have also started several other ventures after this one.
You have a lot going on. I wasn't exactly sure what I should pull up, what I shouldn't. I mean, you're a very, very busy woman, very successful woman, very busy woman. So I wasn't sure what.
That's Vantage Creative Group. It's a group that I created a marketing consultant, fractional CMO. But I also created another company that is Bridge by Design, designed by subscription. And then under this one is Vantage Innovation Lab. We partner with a company that has been operated for 20 years. What they do is using technology to create illusions. It's called oh my gosh, Amaze. So now we have Vantage Amaze, and we create technology illusions to connect with consumers.
And you know what you're doing, because again, avocados from Mexico, Super Bowl. I mean, this is big. This is a big deal. My kids know the jingle.
I had a eclectic, interesting, fulfilling, successful career. I'm very grateful for anyone on my way that has contributed with me or given me the opportunity.
When you say this is the culmination, though, like it's not going to get any better than this. This appearance is the greatest thing that you've ever done. Wouldn't you say that?
No, of course not.
I tried. I do.
Every day there's new opportunities. Every day gets even more exciting. I mean, I think I'm having a hard time deciding, will I ever retire? I mean, this is getting better by the day. And
retire? You're in your mid-20s. You get a long time before you think about retiring.
Yeah, of course, totally. So imagine that I have every day there's an opportunity, and I have a very strong bias for action, and I have the freedom now to do whatever, to pursue any opportunity. So yes, that's what I'm doing. So many things. Eventually, I'm going to refocus, and whenever I run out of time, but I'm pretty efficient, so I still have room to growth.
I don't think people with your personality type want to retire anyway. It's like this illusion, like it's just never going to happen. So I would just stop. Yeah. Don't stop thinking about it. Would you say though, that this was the best time you had between the hours of 12 and 1 Eastern Standard Time on October 31st, 2024? Can you give that to me?
100%.
Yeah, I knew it.
You made my day. You made my day. I was not expecting this much fun in a conversation.
Well, listen, you get a guy that shows up dressed like Elvis. You're going to have a good time. You know, he's the king of rock and roll. All right, I'm going to log off the live because we're over the hour, but can you stay in the green room for a couple minutes so we can wrap up or whatever we do?
Sure, absolutely.
All right. Goodbye, America. Thanks for tuning in. Have a lovely, what is it, Thanksgiving? It's not Thanksgiving. Halloween. It's Halloween. It's very close. It's very close. Anyway, have a good weekend. Go trick-or-treating. It's going to be great.